And welcome, ladies and gentlemen, here to the Racer Insider Show. I'm Travis Turner, joined by my man Lindy Suter, the Racer Insider, and continuing to be the racer historian. Lindy and I, as we get into episode 13 here, and boy, we're down the home stretch. Lindy and I were just talking this morning about the fact that March rolls in on Sunday. Of course, that means the madness is to follow, but crazy to think that basketball season is heading down the home stretch, heading toward the postseason. The Racer men have just one NBC game remaining. They will travel to Bradley to finish up the regular season and then off to Arch Madness. The women, of course, and Lindy, I will mention it. You know I do not want to, but they are on the cusp of claiming their second consecutive Missouri Valley Conference regular season championship. We're really excited about that. The ladies coming off an unbelievable road trip at Bradley and Illinois State. We knew that trip was going to be very difficult. When they arrived up there, neither of those teams had lost at home this season. Belmont can testify to us how tough the trip was because the Bruin women did lose both games on that trip, but behind incredible second halves, they ran away from Bradley on Friday night. They rallied against Illinois State on Sunday. They can clinch in their homestand coming up this week, and that is almost all I'll say about stuff like that. I told Lindy I do not like to disturb the good vibrations. Talk to me in April about what a great season it was. Hopefully we've got more championships to discuss, but awfully proud of that group, no doubt about it. As we look at the men today, we'll talk about recent outcomes. We'll look ahead a little bit maybe to what is left here in the season on the men's side. The bracketing is going to get very interesting in terms of the seeding. Of course, I think matchups and obviously momentum huge when you head into March, but mostly we are excited about being able to unveil another squad in the Suter 60. Lindy's looked back at some of his favorite players over the years. We are into the aughts or the thousands, if you prefer. It's an interesting group that we'll get to for you here in the back half of the show. And we're also going to visit a little bit, and we may do this pretty early in the show. We're going to visit or revisit Lindy's original vision for the Racer Insider. He's talked about this in the past. It certainly was a big part of our radio show when Lindy joined me back in 2008, and he and I were together for nearly a decade through a lot of great times, and his approach kind of remained the same, but I want him kind of to share how he used the Insider, what its purpose was to him, what his vision was, and how he approached covering the racers at that time. I think that'll be a pretty neat thing to do. So a lot for us to do. We'll get rolling here. As always, though, we do want to thank our friends at Suter Insurance Group, 270-753-5842, SuterINSgroup.com online. And, of course, we have their greatest ambassador, Mr. Lindy Suter himself. My friend, hope all is well down at the agency. Anything in particular you want to share with us today?
It's day 15 of the shoulder surgery. It's going good. The office is doing great without me. So I'll just take the rest of the year off and, get this shoulder ready, maybe get a little golf in and watch the portal work this summer and see how that all goes. But
hey, well, we're proud of you toughing through this thing, because I know our audience tends to skew more veteran like we are. And we probably got a lot of folks that tune into us that have had knees and shoulders and hips and different things. A lot of people who can certainly sympathize and empathize with you. And I know this was something that you don't go into any of it lightly, but glad to hear that process of recovery is going well for you.
Yeah, it's going well. If anybody ever has to have shoulder surgery done, give me a call. I got the guy to do it. He's really, really good. He's a former quarterback at Duke, so I was going to get along with him because he was a sports guy. But he's really good. So if anybody, I won't mention him by name because I hadn't asked him for permission. But if you ever need one, give me a call.
It does help when you're going through rehab and recovery to be as tough and as ornery as Lindy is.
Well, true. When you weighed 135 pounds in high school and you played football, you had to be a little tough and you had to be pretty wiry, Travis. So But anyhow, yeah, here at the insurance agency, I just wanted to mention, we're a multi-line agency. We sell all lines of insurance. We also represent several different companies. One thing I never mentioned that I should, we're close to the Tennessee border, and we do insure property in Tennessee. I have several homes and autos insured in Spring Hill, Tennessee, Franklin, Tennessee, and of course on the lake, Paris Landing. So if you're one of our listeners in Tennessee, feel free to call us for a quote or run it through all our companies and see how we compare. The worst
And
thing, I always tell people, Travis, the worst thing that can happen to call us for a quote is this. We're going to run it through all our companies. We're going to look at your coverages. We're going to review it and see if there's anything that you need. And then we're going to run it through all our companies and quote it. And we're going to pick the one that we think best fits your needs. If our quote and our coverage is not competitive with what you got, guess what? You feel really good about what you got.
right.
You feel really good. Okay, I've tried. This is as good as I can do. So it doesn't hurt to make that call. It doesn't take long. Very little information is needed in order to get a quote. I've got 3 or 4 different people here that can give it to you right away. So just give us a buzz. Give us a shot at it.
Yeah, good stuff. That's 270-753-5842 and SuitorInsGroup.com online. Lindy, let's quickly get to what has happened fairly recently for the racers, and we'll take a look kind of at what the realities are with the league race at this point and the seedings for the postseason. But racers, a tough loss on the road at Illinois State. The Redbirds worked them over pretty good in that one. Racers did not shoot it particularly well. And that area that we've talked a lot about that has been a really good spot for Murray State when they've played well, the threes and frees, as they were just 5 of 20 from deep, 8 of 14 at the line. Illinois State didn't get to the line much and only made 5 of 11, but they did make 9 threes, so a 32-23 advantage in threes and frees there. But that was not the case against Evansville, as the Racers pulled away to an 88-75 victory, 14 triples made, and on a day where Evansville made 12 of them. The Purple Aces were 12 of 29 from deep, but 14 threes for the Racers and 24 of 26 at the foul line. Evansville only shot 6 free throws, making 5. The threes and frees, 66-41 in favor of Murray State, as they do pick up their 20th win of the season, their 12th in conference play. And Lindy, when they shoot it well, and this is not a secret for anybody in college basketball, but this is a club that when you're sort of looking for that recipe, again, I know defense catches a lot of folks' eye, and I get that, and this is not a particularly strong defensive club, but I think the realities are what they are. If the Racers are going to win most nights, the offense is need to operate at a pretty high level, shot making enormous in that.
You know how I feel about that, and I was sitting with Jeff there at the ball game. By the way, the last ball game in my seat. I think I might get to carry that seat with me, seat number 12. Been sitting in that seat, and there was a little sentimental stuff going on there, because lots of stuff has happened. I know we're going to be kind of seated in the general area, but it's not that seat.
Right.
But anyway, I kept looking up at that 3-point field goal percentage, and I kept seeing it go, well, 28, 30%, 32%. And we kept coming. And we finally hit, I looked up there and it was about 36 or 37%. And I turned over to Jeff. I said, we're going to win this game if that right there stays the same. And I don't know, because I haven't gone back and looked at all the wins and all the losses. But you're right. I guarantee you most of the wins, we were shooting the basketball well from 3. And you look at how many attempts we have compared to our opponents over the year in the Missouri Valley Conference only. There's a lot of difference. And if you took that 32%, regardless of all the other stuff that we talk about, if you take that 32% and move it up to 36 or 37%, that's a lot of points.
It is absolutely a lot of points.
In fact, it might have been enough wins to be right there with Belmont. And that's the one thing Belmont is doing. They are hitting that 38, 37% just about every night out.
Well, and Lindy, we talk about the efficiencies all the time, and I tell you at this point, I'll just kind of shift into some of the things that we did want to talk about today,
Okay.
And I'm going to segue this over to Lindy's approach with the insider from years back, and kind of how he has felt about this. But there is a human need. I don't know. I think it's always been true, but obviously the internet and social media in particular has, I'll use the word inflamed this really, because it's not good for any of us when it happens. But when things don't go right, and I don't care what area of life it is, we have a very human need to assess blame. Something has gone wrong, and we need to know. And more than we need to know, we need to blame somebody else for it. We tend to not want to put it on ourselves. We tend to want to move it out somewhere else. But what is wrong here? fundamentally where the program is concerned, and I shouldn't say the program initially, we should take a look at the program holistically. I think that's important. But this year's team, you reach a point, and we are now 32 games deep in this journey, I think. But you get to a point where you are where you are as a club. You are who you are as a club. Or maybe we're at 30 games here. But when you get that deep, 25, 26, 27, 28, 30 games, you enter the postseason wherever you are. Your club is what it is. And you know, basketball, football, I don't care what it is. When you're playing against somebody who may be scheming against what you do, you've got a couple of choices operationally. You can be who you are and always try to stick to who your identity is, or you can be prepared to adjust a little bit. And as the old Murray State football coach Denver Johnson liked to say, you can scratch where it itches. You can take what they're giving you or deal with what they're trying to take away from you and make particular adjustments. But people so much, there's this idea, Lindy, that we get caught up in there is this right way or this ideal way to play. And for any of you that have paid attention, and I know we probably have more men's basketball fans than we do women's basketball fans at the college level. But right now, Lady Vol Nation down in Knoxville, they are ablaze at their struggles as they continue to fall from national relevancy. And their athletic director, Danny White, when he replaced the members of they had gone with the Pat Summitt family since she was the head coach there, and obviously this legendary program that she built. But he went with a coach who had been at the Division II level, had been 1 year the head coach at Marshall, and brought in Kim Caldwell. And she came with her system, the kind of high-paced, high-pressure, much more high pressure that she's used that we kind of favor on the women's side. And whether it's recruiting, whether it's talent, whether it is the system, whether it's her abilities as a head coach, who knows? That's a deep dive thing. But now there's constant criticism of how they play. Our belief is that 92-88 is a 4-point margin. 52-48 is a 4-point margin. Okay. How are you going to play? How are you going to win or lose? But the thing that I will always ask people who favor traditional half-court basketball, you think that 74-70 is the kind of basketball that's the right way to play. That's the way that Dean Smith would have done it, or Tom Izzo would do it, or however. Here's the thing about if everybody plays traditional basketball, they play it the way that you think it should be played. Somebody's going to lose, aren't they, Lindy?
Yep. Oh, yeah.
When teams are playing, quote unquote, the right way or a traditional or conventional way, and they're 7-25, is it the style of basketball? Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not. Is it the coaching? It could be the coaching. Is it the talent on the roster versus the talent they're facing? I could certainly take whoever's last in the SEC and put them in a lower league, and they would probably be top 3, correct?
Correct.
Sure. So when you begin to look at what is right and what is wrong, I'm going to give you an example here. So I'm going to give you 2 coaches. Are you ready? I'm going to give you 2 coaches. Coach A, over 6 seasons, went 91-89 and 55-57 in league play. So basically around 500. Coach B, in 3 seasons, went 69-23 and 43-13 in league play. Would you say, based on that information, and it's not a lot of information, but based on that information, it's Coach B vastly superior to Coach A?
Well, record-wise, he is, but not knowing what talent, and maybe talent is part of the deal too, because you've got to recruit the talent in order to win. You got to have the Jimmies and Joes, and you got to be able to get them here to do that. But wow, man, that's a tough one. But looking at that, you'd say B. I mean, you have to say B.
And I can tell as you listened, because I can see your face, you feel like you're being set up, don't you?
Yes, I do.
And you are being set up because Coach A is Rochelle Turner and Coach B is Rochelle Turner.
That's a good point, Travis.
And now, folks, I'm going to tell you why your men's program is disappointing you to date.
Yeah.
And that is because we won't let the cake be baked. We won't let the meal be prepared properly, and we won't let it be finished in its time. That's where we are. I know what Kurt Signetti has done at Indiana. Look, it's fool's gold. It's fool's gold. That's a lottery ticket. That's 1 in a million. I know we are in an era where you can go change the groceries out. Boy, these have spoiled, and we're going to throw them out, and we can go get some more. I know. I get it. But listen, because Rochelle was left alone, she was left alone, and then she even got a reset as she had to deal with a conference change. And yes, she has made her staff better. She has adapted her style of play. The level of her recruiting has risen to another level. But guys, if I told you what her resources are and what she has spent on her roster versus the other side, you couldn't even believe it. You couldn't even believe it. But time is required. Nothing that is worth anything comes easily. Nothing can be bought overnight. The character and the toughness, when you watch our women play, and I know so many of you have reached out to me as admirers of their culture, and Rochelle and her staff, that's been hard earned and hand picked. Why don't we have problems in our program? Because we don't let them in. We don't let them through the gate. There is a standard of character and toughness and competitiveness that has to be there. And if something slips through the gate that ain't right, it don't stay long. But there is a championship DNA. Understand this, Haven Ford is a great player, but she's not that gifted. She's not. But she is the best young woman, the best kid I've ever known.
Oh, no doubt.
And Caitlin Young was right there with her. And there is a character level, and of course we have done this through the portal. Hallie Polk's a portal kid. Ava Learn was a portal kid. Trinity White was a portal kid. Sharnice Curry Jelks a portal kid. Keslin Sechrist a portal kid. But when you are bringing portal kids by a small handful into a championship fabric and culture, it all assimilates, and the championship culture always wins.
No doubt.
And Lindy, as we have gone back and as we have looked at all these kids, and we're going to do it again today, as we look at the all 2000 teams, do you know how many points a game Justin Burdine averaged in his freshman and sophomore years?
Freshman, sophomore year, I'd say 3 or 4 or 5 points a game. Probably didn't get a lot of playing time, a little bit.
1.8 as a freshman, 2.8 as a sophomore.
There you go.
Do you know what Chris Shoemate averaged as a freshman? 2.8. Tony Easley, 3.1. Cuthbert Victor, 6.2. Sean Witherspoon, 5.3. Tyler Holloway, 5.9. Denaro Thomas, 5.1. John Morant averaged 12.5 points a game as a freshman.
Yep.
And you're going to say to me, people are going to say, well, nobody else is doing it with freshmen. Well, some of them are.
They are.
Some of them are. In fact, I think we chronicled recently that freshman Jack Smiley and redshirt freshman Owen Dillon had us over an open flame, cooking us, Lindy, cooking us.
Oh, that Valpo team. I mean, that Pettigrew kid up there, Valpo, heck of a player. I see a lot of freshmen. I mean, in fact, if you watch any of the national, the Power 4 teams up there at the top, there's some really good freshmen. But yeah, you're right. It takes time too. Some of these freshmen, 4 points a game, all those guys you mentioned end up on this team in some form or fashion. And boy, I hope that's something that we haven't lost. Now they haven't lost with some, but playing those freshmen. Yeah. Now Roman's a freshman, but he's kind of an older freshman, so it's hard to categorize him as a true freshman.
But it's a choice in terms of, are you going to be patient enough to grow your brand back or not?
Yeah.
Are you or not? And Lindy, you've already chronicled the fact through this history. Young Lindy the kid was watching championship level basketball played through the 60s and early 70s. Yes?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, sir.
And then as things shifted and resources shifted and emphasis around other teams and programs shifted, a little bit of that was lost. Yes. Yes. And then it took the reinvestment into Ron Green's program. And as great as Coach Green's teams were, because of the makeup of the OVC at the time, it took a while to get back to NCAA tournament level. Yes?
Yes.
Absolutely. But that was a time, and I remember this as a kid, we were thrilled to be in the NIT, thrilled to be playing postseason basketball, without question. Thrilled to do it. Thrilled to win at Notre Dame in the regular season. Thrilled to win at Alabama in the NIT. And then, of course, when the dam breaks and they go and they beat NC State in the NCAA tournament in 1988, the rest is history. And we just talked about last week about all of those championships from the 1990s that followed that 88 appearance. And somewhere here I wrote down, Lindy, OVC tourney titles in 90, 91, 92, 95, 97, 98, 99. And what happened in the end of the decade we're about to cover up through all of the teens, it took a little bit of build at times to get there, didn't it?
Oh, yes, it did. Big time. Especially if a coach took over a team where he didn't have any players and the portal was not available. Yes, no doubt.
And so, look, you know me, I'm not a Pollyanna rose-colored glasses guy. I like unvarnished honesty better than I like anything. But one of the things here that's difficult to do, one of the things that I enjoyed about my broadcasting retirement and will enjoy going into re-retirement is, if I'm going to talk about it, it bothers me not to talk about it honestly, but I'm in a position from a conflict standpoint, I probably shouldn't, even though everything in my nature says do. I know for you, the way the Suitor blood works, I know in terms of how you feel privately about things, your blood still boils sometimes.
Yes.
But the Racer Insider, and this is where I'm going to take you back to your original concept. You had your thoughts and you had your opinions, and I have no doubt that you told Brother Larry and those closest to you how you really felt. But when you published the Insider, what were you trying to do for the program when you did that?
Well, first of all, we'd come off all those championships in the 90s, right?
Right.
Okay. Second of all, as a kid, I was reading Basketball Weekly in the library inside my book. Okay. So I was really big on Basketball Weekly. Every week, couldn't wait for my Basketball Weekly to come. And then Basketball Times come along, and then there was UK and it's Cat's Paws. And I was thinking, man, that would be so much fun to do it. But I wasn't financially able to do it. I was building my insurance career. I'd just gotten married 3 or 4 years later. And the timing, the timing. It's all about timing. And then Mark Godfrey come along. And me, as we talked a couple of weeks ago, we got really close. We needed to he thought big. I was thinking big. And I was thinking, how do we get this publicity out? Because we're so good, but the internet's not around, Twitter's not around, nothing's around, Facebook's not around, cell phones are not even around. Good thing. But anyway, really, I can't even imagine my younger days with cell phone. But as a fan, Travis, I mean, some of the stuff I did, I chased referees into the tunnel at Austin Peay. Can you believe that, from press row? My gosh, man, come on. I think back on that, and I think, you crazy dummy. Might have got thrown in jail. But anyway, it was really to publicize and get the word out, and just the enjoyment of doing it too. I knew at Murray you couldn't make any money on it. I mean, I just never made any money on the Racer Insider at all. In fact, it cost me money, but it was fun. It was a lot of fun, and I wanted to promote our players. And I had such a good people around me too. I mean, you had Steve Parker, one of the most talented layout guys, cover guys that you could find. And he was working at the Ledger at the time. And then, we had Neil Bradley and Joey Fosco as columnists. I mean, how does it get any better than Joey and Neil? And then, of course, you had me, which, I had the Insider column. And, that was really the goal, was just to get the word out and get these guys the proper publicity, let the people learn who these kids were. with the feature stories, and because you wasn't getting that anywhere else, just game stories. And so that was really the reason why I did it, was mostly out of the passion to do it. Mark Godfrey's encouragement, because boy, I always loved to walk into the basketball office when the recruits were coming.
Right.
Racer Insider covers were all out in perfect order where it would be there for people to see. It was also a way for the parents to keep up with their kid playing ball. I mean, because you don't been reading it. So, that was my whole approach from the beginning. I started it at a great time. I was just coming off being president of the Racer Club. We had Mark Gottfried and Houston Nutt as the coaches. So that timing was really good. And, but that's really the main reason that I did it, was for that, just getting the word out on our program, and my passion to do it. It was a lot of work, but also a lot of joy, a lot of fun, and met so many people. I mean, Larry Donald, from the Basketball Times, the guy that was the editor original, came down and visited Murray. I spent lunch with him. I just got to meet so many good people.
Well, and Lindy, correct me if I'm wrong here, but your intent was to promote the best of the program, not to hit piece the worst of it, right?
Yeah, and that was it. That was the main thing. I made a promise. Of course, that's easy to do when you used to let Mark Gottfried as the coach. I mean, we were going through a really good time. I mean, you're talking about Mike Cherries and DT Mazes and all that, and Isaac Spencer's and stuff. But yeah, it was a great time to start the Racer Insider. So there wasn't a whole lot of negativity. There wasn't. Now, where I really got challenged was when the football program started sliding down a little bit.
Right.
And I don't mean this in a negative way, but the basketball was probably more popular in the magazine anyway. So that wasn't a big deal. Now, when things go bad in basketball, that was very difficult, Travis. That was very difficult for me, because I'm, me, to be politically correct sometimes.
Sure, because you want them to win.
But the one thing I had ace in the hole was I had Joey Fosco, Travis. Joey Fosco was just like Travis Turner. When he was writing his column, it was all his thoughts. It didn't matter.
Right.
They liked it or they didn't like it. But his opinion was also very well respected too. So, I had that for a while. But that was a difficult thing to do. But I'm such a racer that it's hard for me to get negative. I will say negative things that, my feelings about not really trashing anybody, but what I think should be done, or my thoughts on the whole program as a whole. And, I've got those thoughts that I'll share, but to be honest with you, when I get to that point, I usually share those with the main guy.
Right. Well, and honest is honest, Lindy, and not all honest is going to be pretty. I think the issue that we have, and this is something that, some hard lessons that I've learned over the years where coaching is concerned. I don't think there's anything wrong. In fact, I think it's a good thing to have championship level standards for your programs. I think that even if you can't attain them, talking to your players and having this culture of accountability, responsibility, the pursuit of excellence in everything that you do. Again, there's going to be a lot of that in terms of the outcomes, the results in terms of wins or losses. It's simply going to be about who did you have to go against. Right. If that's like for our football program now, there are lots of programs that they could compete with if that was who was regularly on the schedule. Right now, the Missouri Valley Football Conference is not one of them. Right. And that's just real, and that has to be understood. But to take it back to my own personal experience in coaching, when I took over at Callaway County, the mistake that I made was that I was going to take down McCracken County. That's the big dog. That's the gold standard. That's who's winning championships. That's who you've got to go get. And in the early days of my career, I deemed everything a failure that did not get to that standard. Well, that was unrealistic. And, the sense of pride being hurt, the sense of ego being hurt, the sense of, man, this is not a good reflection of me as a coach, all that's wrong-headed. Because all of that is me, I, selfish. And the thing that I will say to fans, and certainly fans aren't coaches, but wanting to win is fine. Being disturbed by the current environment where players are being paid is fine. But if you are a supporter, if you want the best still for young men and young women, then we pursue and push and root for the championships. But just as we are as parents, as coaches, as teachers, as mentors, we should be in the business of lifting people up.
Yes.
I mean, that's it. We should be in the business of lifting people up. And I should be able to say to a player, hey, your effort is horse crap. Get on the floor after that loose ball. Make sure you are executing the scouting report. Make the extra pass. Stop making the ball stick. You should be able to say that. As a fan, you should be able to be upset if the effort is not good enough, if the attitude is not good enough, if this is not being represented well enough. That level of upset is fine. But if people are playing hard, they're playing tough, they're playing together, and the ball's not going in the basket, or the other team is playing better, those are forms and function of execution.
True.
Of performance.
Exactly.
That's not real fair game. Effort and attitude and level of accountability and responsibility is. But I'm going to be real honest with you. I'm 53 years old, and there are a lot of things in my life that I suck at. And I'm very glad that they are not on public display.
Me too.
So people can say, hey, you're friggin' brutal, dude.
Yeah.
You're brutal. Because I am. As are we all. And the thing about when you have the courage to compete in the public square, whether it be as a player or as a coach, when Lindy's in his office, there's not somebody looking over your shoulder going, Lindy, you're a terrible insurance agent right now. You're
Right.
a terrible boss right now. My God, that's unbelievable how bad you are. That's not happening. It's not happening to anybody. And look, where people get mad, of course, and where they feel entitled to dehumanize everybody involved is the head coach of Racer men's basketball now makes a lot of money, doesn't he?
Right.
Sure he does. Okay. And now, and players, careful what you wish for, and your money's still going to spend. But when people know you're getting much more than a scholarship now guess what? When you don't make shots,
criticism.
They think you got it coming.
That's right.
They think you have it coming. And I think there just has to be a real examination of what are we doing? I mentioned to you before we started recording this morning, and a lot of people, if you don't follow the NFL, you won't know this guy even, but Doug Peterson beat the Patriots in a Super Bowl and delivered Philadelphia a Super Bowl championship. If championships are as important as we act like they are, then Doug Peterson has a lifetime contract as the head coach of the Philadelphia Eagles, right, Lindy?
Right.
Well, no.
No.
As it turns out, since they won that championship, Doug Peterson has been fired by both the Eagles and his next employer, the Jacksonville Jaguars. You said to me once about 1AA football. You said, hey, you remember when Ray Dempsey led Southern Illinois to that football championship there in Carbondale? And I said, yes. And he said, you're the only one. Because, they've got that 50,000 seat stadium over there in Carbondale since they won that championship. No, they don't. No, they don't. And the thing that we're always going to do as humans is we're going to say, thank you, next.
Right.
Do it again. I'll never forget. My wife's 23 years old, Lindy. She's 23 years old. She beats her alma mater, Marshall County. Marshall County had won 29 games in a row. She beats Marshall County for the regional championship. Head coach at 23. Murray High had never won a first region championship before.
That's amazing.
1 hour after we left Racer Arena that night, we are sitting in her apartment, and she looks at me and she says, what do I do now? Already it had hit her. By the way, before we move on, I'm going to offer this one primer on what you're looking for to build your program. I'm going to explain something to people. So when my wife took over the women's program at Murray State, she had been a head coach for 21 years. 21 years. She had won 460 games.
Mhm.
She won 4 regional championships as a player in 4 years under legendary Marshall head coach Howard Beth. She played 3 years at Murray State. She played 2 years of golf while she was doing it for the legendary Velvet Milkmen. She helped Jimmy Harrell with the Murray High girls for 1 year while she was doing her student teaching. Murray High girls basketball had never won a championship of any kind until that year they won the first region All-A championship. In her 21 seasons at Murray High, she won 460 games. She won 13 first region All-A championships, 1 All-A state championship, 4 first region championships, and got to the Sweet 16 Final Four twice in a row, once beating the defending state champion and #1 and top 25 in the country ranked Louisville Butler.
That's amazing.
Okay. Now, while she was doing that, she was also a special education teacher. She also started the first girls basketball summer league for teams to play in. She started the Lady Tiger Classic. And of course, all this stuff, I might as well mention Monica Evans, as she is now, was right there helping make it all happen. Little kids camps. And to this day, Lindy, did you know if you went around Division I, major Division I programs, men or women in America, the only head coach you are going to find at every hour of every session of camp is Rochelle Turner. Did you know you can show up to her team camp, and at the right time when they're short officials, you will see her refereeing games in the summer?
Or coaches.
We've got coaches who can't take their own mail 50 steps to the mail drop. They've got an army and an entourage. What are these people doing that you can't do yourself as a leader? You want to ask more of people, do more. Now, I understand that Mick Cronin and Tom Izzo need a lot of assistance, because if Mick needs something off the second shelf in his office, he has to bring them in to build a human ladder so he can walk up and reach it. He's a tough guy. I think that guy, I'd like to get in a room with him one time.
I know several people that might. That was awful what he did. I don't get off on that, but I can't imagine.
But ridiculous. But this is what happens. And people who are choosing leaders, beware. Beware. When I was a head coach at Callaway County High School, I never pulled tarp on or off my field. 30 degrees, wet, nasty. It never got pulled that my hands weren't on it. Because when my players looked at me pulling it, guess what they had to do?
Mm-hmm.
They had to pull it. Don't be the little general standing off the side delegating to people. That's not my job. That's my underling's job.
Mm-hmm.
No. The measure of a man or a woman as a leader is they are first to serve and they are last to eat. And whatever the lowest possible thing is, they are there doing it first, showing everybody else how it is to be done. But people question whether or not she could work at this level. You should consider whether or not this level was worthy of her. And it is no mistake that she is where she is now. And if people want a return to yesteryear and what the good old days were, then we ought to operate that way and not out of both sides of our mouth. Lindy, I won't charge people extra.
That's some pretty good stuff, Travis. I
won't charge them.
I wanted to go back on the Racer Insider. Now, I didn't start. I was always had a positive spin on everything until all of a sudden I get with Travis Turner in 2008, and I'm on the radio. On the radio, I was completely different. It's funny, and this is the honest goodness truth, Travis. On the radio, I'm liable to tell you exactly what I think. Back when we were doing the columns, I would think different. I guess I was having too much time to, oh man, I got to go back and change that. Now when we do radio, we do this, you can't go back and change.
Yes, but Lindy, I actually have this in my notes, and I could put this in front of the camera and I could show people this, but I have this in my notes. I'm glad you brought that up. During the radio show years, if things were going badly enough, I would get a text message saying you wouldn't be in that Monday morning.
Sick.
You would hold your fire. You would hold your fire. If there was a player that you did not have something nice to say about, you simply would not address it. That's true. That's a fact. But here's what's underlined in my notes. During the radio show, Lindy had two targets: other fan bases and the OVC office.
Yep. There
was no friendly fire. And you will remember this. Prior to Ja and Shaq arriving, as Matt was suffering with those years there initially, before they showed up and the tide turned, we were being extremely positive on the show. Right. I mean, extremely positive to the point that you informed me that someone on the message board had said they didn't give a rat's ass what Travis and Lindy thought. Now, I will say of that person, they were right to do so. I don't give a rat's ass what I think anymore either. That's wisdom. But that's how positive you have always been about the brand that you love.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's just the way I've been. And that couple of those years, I had to call you several times. I just can't get on there and talk. I can't do it. I just know no way I can do it. And but you're right about that OVC office, though. I gave them a good old time during that time period. Tell them the story about the tournament. I don't want to tell it on myself, but tell the story about the tournament.
That was as big a deal as anything.
Scenes that nobody knows.
It was just a constant, and Lindy had. I mean, he just became consumed by the fact that we had moved into municipal, and municipal became an easy target. It was a great launching pad because of what the facility wasn't any longer. But I still have them on my phone somewhere in my camera roll because when Lindy would go down there, he would send me pictures from all over the building. But so much of this was the idea of the OVC headquarters being in Nashville. Belmont had come into the league, and of course you've got the Tennessee schools anyway, and so it was just constantly a sore spot that this tournament deserved a better venue. And of course, another thing, if you listen to us back in those days, Lindy was not happy with the leadership of the conference. He didn't like the direction of it. He didn't like the way that it was marketed. There was sometimes a feeling, and certainly we would be biased, but there was certainly a feeling of disrespect towards Murray State that had been the flagship men's program for years, and from a fan support standpoint was carrying it. But with municipal, let's see, there was the scoreboard issue. There was the tape on the floor. There was the gum on Lindy's shoe. I believe Gladys Knight had a dressing room down there somewhere.
On the monitor. Andy Griffin was playing on the monitor.
Okay, Andy Griffin. I was going to say hee-haw, but it was Andy Griffin. I remember the photo now. And so Lindy just began to beat this drum every single week. Now, you have to understand, back in those days, it was the early days of streaming audio. And I also had a website that was dedicated to my sports coverage of high school sports in Western Kentucky, as well as our show. And so every show archived online. And so if you weren't listening live streaming, you could go back and listen to the archive. And we began to realize that when we looked into the analytics of the streaming of people who would come and listen, listenership in Nashville began to really pick up. and there began to be certain reactions based on what the Racer Insider said on the show. And working on the president and the athletic director at the time constantly with the megaphone platform that he had. It's in a matter of a year or two that all of a sudden Evansville is the new home.
Yeah, that was the year that I think that the clock malfunctioned and Belmont got to rerun the play and they scored and didn't go to the tournament because of 7 seconds, they run their play and all that clock didn't start. So they had to go back and rerun the play and they scored. And that really got me, and just all the history back in that arena. And I'll never forget, because I went in Alan Ward's office, and he'll tell you this, it's the truth. I went into his office and I told him that tournament needed to be moved. I was going to start a movement to tell our fans not to go and support it anymore. There was no reason for us to go down there and support the tournament and have to stay in all these high, expensive hotels next to the bus station if you could get down from that floor without getting mugged. And, well, you know all the story because I told it back then. And I'll never forget him looking at me and saying, there's nowhere else. There's nowhere else. We've looked everywhere. There's nowhere else to go. And I said, yes, there is. He said, where's that? And I said, Evansville. He said, they got hockey going on. Now, I've already looked. It's not scheduled during that week. It's open. It's open. I said, you're the head of the chairman of the athletic department. Bob Davis is chairman of the for the presidents for the athletics. So if there's ever a time to get it done, now's the time to get it done. And I kind of put the pressure on them. I didn't mean to do it that way, but that's kind of what, if you remember that day that we got on the OVC, my phone rang from Alan Ward pretty quick. I didn't answer. But anyway, that's kind of how it all started. And, look what ended up happening. Alan, credit him. He took it. He found out. He really started looking into the Evansville, and he carried it to the commissioner. It come down to one vote. As you know, we're Belmont and Tennessee State and Austin.
Sure.
You know where they're voting for. They're voting to keep it. And my understanding, it came down to Jacksonville State making the decision. Their vote is the one that got the OVC out of Nashville and into Evansville, which, in my opinion, was one of the better moves that they'd ever made. Attendance-wise, now they probably need to go back to the home floor.
Right.
Because they're not going to get squat no matter where they play now, unless it.
And that was the other argument that you used to make back then, was that the home floor was the other better option.
Yes, and I still think that is the option for those. Yeah. For those, no doubt about it. No question. For those leagues, all you got to do is watch the championship games and the environments of the schools that are in or turn on Conference USA and see it played in some kind of, I don't know what, ballroom with 700 people in the stands.
Yeah.
And I've always thought that, and I thought that was the ultimate reward to win the conference too. But that's that's a story that's really only been told between me and you and a few more. But that's how that Evansville thing started.
The power of the Racer Insider. Hey, Lindy, one last thing before we get to our aughts team here. I just wanted to make this note, and this is not going to change anything. It's not anything that we're not aware of, but every time I hear a talking head talk about bracketology and strength of schedule and the net and all this crap, I just want to throw up. Okay. Yeah. I pulled this is live this morning. I pulled the SEC and I pulled the Missouri Valley. Okay. Here are the road games played, true road games, true away games that Missouri Valley teams have played. Belmont 13, Bradley 10, Murray State 10, UIC 14, Illinois State 11, UNI 11, Valpo 13, SIU 14, Drake 10, Indiana State 14, Evansville 12. The Southeastern Conference, Florida 8, Alabama 8, Arkansas 8, Tennessee 8, Texas A&M 9, Texas 8, Missouri 9, Vanderbilt 9, Kentucky 8, Georgia 8, Auburn 8, Mississippi State 8, South Carolina 8, Oklahoma 9, Ole Miss 9, LSU 8. And yet some asshat will still look at Missouri Valley teams and tell them you need to schedule better. Are we serious?
I know. I get so tired of hearing that. And it's getting worse. It's not getting better. It's getting worse. It's getting worse. First of all, they'd rather schedule one of those teams like they're talking about SEC schools, bring in a team with a ranking of 250 to 300 and beat them by 50.
Right.
Rather than bring us in where you might be wanting to beat us by 10 or 12 and you might end up losing. So, and it just keeps on. I think the Missouri Valley had a really hard time getting home games this year. I mean the whole.
Lindy, Western Kentucky called my wife 3 weeks ago and canceled the game we had with them next year.
Really?
Yep.
Wasn't asking anything else, really.
told us they didn't want to play people who had more NIL than them.
Is that what they said? Really?
Of course, it'll be a new coaching staff there in all likelihood. We ought to just we should have just said, leave the contract on the table, see if the next coach wants to play.
Yeah. No kid. I can't believe that. Wow. because we got
but that's what we deal with. And then somebody at the Missouri Valley office will have the audacity to say, you guys have got to schedule better.
Yeah.
You guys have a lot of experience with that, do you? Getting games played in Kentucky? Get the hell out of here.
That's not reality.
No, it's absolutely not reality. It is for all of the Missouri Valley teams. Anybody that can play, trying to get games, period. But trying to get somebody to come to your house, forget about it. All right, into the time machine we go, my friend. We are in the thousands, the aughts, if you prefer. And I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to go right to your guy. I'm going to go because he started the decade off. And we've got a couple of guys that got started in the late 90s here. Chris Shoemate had just a little taste of it. Justin Burdine did as well. But let's go ahead and start with Cuthbert Victor. And here's your stat sheet stuffer, my friend. 1,485 points, 935 rebounds, 209 assists, 160 blocks, 167 steals, 413 offensive rebounds. He is number one all-time in blocks. He's number 4 in steals. He's number 6 in rebounds. 14.6 points, 10.2 rebounds on 63% shooting in his final year as a racer. That is quite a resume.
Incredible player. The quiet assassin. He would come in. You probably couldn't get Cuffy to say 2 words. Actually, he did a really good job at the Hall of Fame, and I'm so glad he got inducted into the Hall of Fame. Talking about a guy that was deserving was Cuthbert Victor. But Cuthbert was about 6'5", 6'6", I guess. You don't never know about real measurements. Long arms, very quick off the floor. Probably one of the most explosive guys that I've ever seen play at Murray State off the floor. He could get there quick, and he had those long arms. And just, I can never forget him. He started at Tennessee State his freshman year at 17 years old. Well, we were already into the conference season, Travis. He's 17 years old out there playing. And, ended up doing really had a great career here and ended up going overseas and having a heck of a career over there. And just a super guy and done real well. Family wonderful, but just a heck of a player. One game there's a couple of things that stand out to me about Cuthbert Victor. And one of them was that, of course, 17 years old. Another one, I'd have to look it up, but I think we played Western Kentucky and he must have had 20 rebounds. I mean, he had some rebound games that were way up there. And of course, that was because of his explosiveness. And, that was a Cuthbert Victor. Great player, former cover guy of the Racer Insider for sure.
Well, and Lindy, I just love the effort piece that comes with offensive rebounding. And of course, his spring was part of that. But to have had 3 seasons of over 100 offensive rebounds is just really, really impressive. He knew who he was as a player. He wasn't a shooter from range, but he really got it done around the basket from freshman year on. 565, 547, 596, and 629. He made 59% of his shots in his career.
That's incredible.
Just tremendous, and career averages of 12 points and 7.5 rebounds a game. But a guy who did so many things to help contribute to winning, and just an impressive guy. Cuthbert is one of those guys, when you consider who he was and what he brought to the table, I can't imagine a team of any era, anywhere, that couldn't use a Cuthbert Victor.
Oh, no question about it, Travis. No question about it.
So the earliest entry into our squad here, Lindy, is Justin Burdine. And I told you earlier his story, just getting a little bit of time his first couple of years, but he was already showing people when he got on the floor, the man was making shots. Freshman year, he makes 8 of 21 from deep for 38%. Sophomore year, he makes 16 of 35 at nearly 46%. Then he becomes a starter. He becomes a featured piece offensively. 15.3 points a game as a junior. He makes 75 threes at a 40.3% clip. As a senior, it's 20.4 points a game. 99 triples at a 37.4%. You talked about how much you loved shooting, and that number you were looking for. Mr. Burdine made 198 triples in his career at 39.1%, 1,209 total points. That's the kind of shooting that rings the bell for the Racer Insider.
Oh yeah, he's a very underrated player too. One of those guys, kind of like Cuffy, kind of underappreciated a little bit. He came in at a time where he had to play behind some really good players when he came to Murray State. But man, the one thing I always liked about, but he won the slam dunk competition and the little thing we have before the season starts, Racer Mania. He
Yep.
won it 4 years in a row. 4 years in a row, he won the dunk contest. Couldn't nobody stay with Justin Burdine. But
And he
one
wasn't a
thing,
very big guy.
yeah, he was about 6'2", but very athletic. And the one thing I liked about Justin, he had a jump shot from three. It was a jump shot. He could elevate and get that, kind of like DT Mays,
Yep.
similar. And boy, you talking about a guy. There's only one player that I would say in all my years that I've seen go on a run like he could go on a run would be like an Isaiah Cannon run, but Justin Burdine could put on a run. I mean, when that dude was hot at Tennessee
Right.
Tech, I never seen anything like it. Against Georgia in the NCAA tournament, he got off to a heck of a start. I think it was Georgia, but those are all guys that participated in the big dance.
That's right.
A couple times, two
Yep.
times. Cuffy was in the big dance twice, once with T and once with Cronin. So these guys pretty dang good players, but Burdine was really good. That's one guy though I would have to say one of the more talented players that's ever played here. Probably didn't get the 100% out of his career if he'd have been really totally dedicated. But boy, you're talking about a dude, and he's gone on and done well. We stay in contact with him. He lives down in West Tennessee. He's been in the car business and done really well. But man, he was he could go on a roll. I'm telling you, if I went back and showed you some of the tapes that I've got of him through a 6 or 7 minute span during a game, it was like, whoo, he's a pro. I mean, he was really a good player.
Get that flamethrower mode going.
His defense was kind of this, and I don't know how he got. I mean, I know I had to call T a couple of times and say, "Get him back and start line," because he was one of those guys. You couldn't live with him, but you couldn't live without him.
Right.
And I was always about, well, you can't live without him.
Yeah. You like that shot making, and the man could do it.
He was a difference maker.
Well, here's another style of player, but another one of your shooters, Lindy, Chris Shoemate. Chris coming in 99, 2000, and was actually with the program for 5 years total. Only played in 4 games in the 01-02 season, but man, he had some really good years. In particular, his junior year, he was good for 13.1 points a game, but he averaged double figures 3 times in his career. Was a really good shooter, really efficient player from all over. He shot nearly 48% overall, 170 triples in his career, including his senior year. He was 73 of 163, nearly 45%. He shot it at a 41% clip from deep for his career, 1,207 points, 389 rebounds, 252 assists. A really good career for Chris Shoemate.
Yeah, you might, when you mention Chris Shoemate's name, you might not think, oh, he's on an all-decade team or whatever until you just start reading off those stats.
Yep.
And also, he was a winner. They won a lot of games with Chris Shoemate. And, Chris was a great shooter, and we really caught a bad break. I think we still won, but he had a broken hand. Something happened one year, either stomach issue, something happened that was a health issue. I can't remember, but he wasn't able to play. But he was a good defender, too. Shoemate was a good defender. He could get in those passing lanes, and he was very athletic. If you remember,
he was a long guy.
He could get off the floor, and he's got a youngin now named Gator Shoemate. He's probably about 10 or 11 years old right now, and I've been watching him since he's 5. I'm going to offer him now. Chris is down there in Birmingham, and Chris has got him playing in the right place. I'll just put it that way. That boy's going to be tough. There ain't going to be no.
Hey.
And that's the way Chris Shoemate played.
The scout has spoken on that. Make that.
Keep a name. Gator Shoemate. Gator.
All right. We will make that note. Now, Lindy, the next guy here in our chronology is a player that I know you believe belongs on the all-time great list. And had he had more time at Murray, more seasons, I think he would have been an inner circle guy. But James Singleton, enough years have passed. Some folks may have forgotten, but one of the most prolific rebounders in Murray State history during his time. The other thing that even I had to have refreshed for me is what a capable shooter James Singleton was. You want to talk about a guy with a crazy efficient line here. So in 01-02, he comes in, he goes for 12.2 points and 10.1 rebounds, plus 2 blocks. Lindy, of the 10.1 rebounds, 4 of them came on the offensive end, but he shoots 59.7% overall, 37.5% from 3, nearly 79% at the free throw line. He gets better in year 2. In 02-03, he goes for nearly 15 a game, 54 from the field overall, 44 from 3, 80 at the line, 11 rebounds, and 1.8 blocks. It all adds up over the 2 years to a double-double, 13.5 and 10.5 for his career, 56.7 from the field, 43 from 3, nearly 80 from the foul line, 811 points, 632 rebounds. Just go ahead and multiply that by 40% over 4 years, and you're talking about a guy that's up around 1,500 points and 1,000 rebounds. That is a special player.
Oh, yeah. James Chicago Singleton. We gave him the nickname Chicago. He was from Chicago. And he had an injury in his high school career that cut him short. He ended up going down to junior college and playing 2 years down in Mississippi at Pearl River. And I remember getting these little JUCO reports, and I'd see, because I knew we were recruiting a James Singleton. And I'd look at these reports and I'd say, 20 rebounds, 5 blocks. No way. Who's keeping the stats down there? But I kept watching him. He came in for his visit. I'll never forget this too. Him and Antonio Henderson came together, and they were in for their visit. And guess what? He wanted to play ball, and Antonio wanted to play ball. Well, guess what? There wasn't a gym on Murray State's campus that was open. They had karate going in the arena and car help. They had a boat show going on or something at the RSAC. Of course, you know how I felt about that. That really, I'm thinking, here a guy's wanting to play ball, and he ain't got.
I can only imagine.
On his recruiting visit, we can't even show him the arena because there are boats everywhere. And I think there was trash cans down in T's office where the water had been thrown through the ceiling into his trash cans on that visit. And anyway, so I'll never forget it. I think I called Greg McNutt, and Greg McNutt called Stuart Poston, and Stuart Poston opened up the half-court wellness center. And we went in there, and they played pickup ball in the half court. I seen James Singleton get about 2 or 3 tip dunks, and I said, "Oh, we got to have him. We got to have him." Weeks went by. I'm watching the recruiting. I'm going, where's James Singleton? God, all these Louisiana schools are fixing to sign this James Singleton. We got to have that dude. I called T up, and I said, T, I said, come to the office. I'm not going to tell you what he said, but anyway, he came to the office, and I said, Coach, are we going to sign James Singleton? I don't know. Jim says we got Andy coming back, and Chris says we got Jamar Avant coming back. I don't know. We got a spot for him. I said, hey, T, get in your car and drive to Mississippi and sign that dude. Okay. And the rest is history.
Good advice.
Good advice. And he'll tell you that's a true story. I ain't never really told that in a podcast. That's kind of one of the things that me and my friends have always talked about. Because I'll never forget either. After we signed him, I walked in down to the office, and one of the assistants that I will not call by name looked up at me and he said, "We wasted a scholarship today." I said, "Really?" He says, "Yeah, that Singleton kid can't play no ball." So anyway,
I wouldn't want my name called on that one either.
Little side story. Had to tell that. That was really the only guy I really think I really signed was James Singleton. In all the years, I think I had influence on that one. But what a player he was, and he continued on playing professionally. He's got some kids that are really good too. He's real involved in out west and Texas with a basketball organization, and he's just real good with kids. And he's got a little basketball academy, kind of similar to what you got going in baseball, and has done really well. But and another thing, you talk about that 3-point shooting. How many attempts did he get his junior year?
I don't think I have the attempts listed, but he didn't take a lot.
No, and here's the reason why he wasn't allowed to. He wasn't allowed to. That upset me too.
Well, and again,
now, he did get up. Now after that Eastern Illinois game, I think he hit 7 of them.
Yep.
I think at that point in time, they started saying, "Yeah, James, it's okay to shoot the 3."
I mean, Lindy, as a senior, 44%.
Yeah, I mean, he could shoot it. He could play it.
44%.
Really good.
As you said, the man was a pro.
And he played he's a pro. He played professionally, played NBA played NBA. I mean,
and played well.
I mean, I don't, we've got our NBA players up. James Singleton's picture probably needs to be up somewhere because he was an NBA player too. Yeah. And, I loved Chicago, man. You're talking about a guy that loved his car. He pulled that car in down there where the loading ramp inside the arena in that little area right there. And he'd have that thing sparkling clean. He'd be cleaning that car. He'd go shoot some hoops. He was the first person. I went to Applebee's, met him one time, and he hit a little button and his door opened. I said, "What in the heck?" He said, "Yeah, he had actually rigged that up. He had done that." But yeah, Chicago was great. Another great recruit, and what a group you just talked about. Singleton and Victor on the same team.
Going to get every rebound, Lindy.
I mean, they were awesome. I mean, they were awesome. Another team. I mean, NCAA tournament teams, and it's boy, go back to that time period, and whew, and we weren't happy.
You get there.
We weren't happy with all that. We weren't happy with that.
It's funny how you get there when you have players like that. Next up is another one of your shooters, 04, 05, 05, 06, Trey Pearson. In his career with the Racers, he shot 40% from deep. He was 111 of 278 after coming in from Ole Miss. Seasons of 14.5 and 10.3 points, 12.3 over the course of his 2 seasons. All told, it was 690 points, 102 steals for Trey. And Trey, I think, Lindy, was one of those players that had he summoned his best more often, he would be another guy that would be way up that list.
Oh, no question about that. And I think Trey would tell you that straight up too. I've been able to visit with Trey quite a bit over the past 3 or 4 years. He's got a son that's really going to do well. He's signed with High Point. I would expect him to be in the portal in a year or two. He's that good. But Trey was just very talented. We played North Carolina in that NCAA game, Cronin's last year, I think it was. Yeah. And man, he was the best player on the floor. I mean, we're playing North Carolina, and Trey Pearson's the best player on the floor. And that's why I put him on that list, is because he, that 10 points a game, that's probably misleading because, Trey had some times where we didn't really know where Trey was.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Because,
yes, I do.
Like we talked about. But, man, but what a talented kid, and everything has worked out really good for him. But, man, I love to watch Trey Pearson play. And the one thing I go back on that team, man, I liked Trey at the point back then. They had Jennifer at the point, and Trey would play the 2. But occasionally Trey would get at that point, and boy, he was really dangerous at the point. But there was no way that I would not. There's no way I could leave Trey Pearson off of that decade team.
Well, and Lindy, I'll make this little side trip off of that again, and we forget because access and amplification, magnification. One of the things that I would point out to all of the athletic departments, I mean all of them everywhere. I understand that we live in the era that we live in. By the way, folks, if you want a happiness primer or a little clean living advice, get off social media. Get off all of it. Get off of it. And you'd say, well, Travis, we wouldn't be here if not for social media. You're wasting your time listening to me anyway. Go do something productive, okay? But anyway, we have decided that we're going to inundate the world with coverage of our college athletes. And I wonder why people think they have the right to say whatever they want to say. And I would just say, as you referenced, with who Trey might have been as a young man, figuring himself out, figuring life out, and now who he has become as an adult, again, that is the path that we all walk. Some of us walked it in darkness and in anonymity, and you didn't get to know what a screw up we were. I see a man witnessing from the crowd there. These are unfinished products. We should not put them under constant microscope. This shouldn't happen. Stop it. Get the cameras and get the microphones out. Let them grow. Leaders that are doing this, you're making horrible mistakes. Nurture them the right way. But these are all unfinished products. You give them time. Again, you let that cake bake. It might be great by the time it's over. Sean Witherspoon's career, Lindy, another guy that grew. He developed 03-04. He comes in. He's out in 06-07. 5.3 and 3.8 rebounds as a freshman, 9.6 and 5 boards as a sophomore, 10.6 points, 7.7 rebounds as a junior. 10-3, and 5-5 as a senior. All told, listen to this nice smorgasbord of production: 1,065 points, 662 rebounds, 237 assists, 146. He also shot nearly 36% from three and 52% overall. Spoon getting it done in a lot of good ways.
Yeah, and you talk about the dude that the stats don't show up. Sean Witherspoon's one of those guys. He's a guy that you'd want on your team, no matter if he's starting, coming off the bench, or whatever. Spoon was a leader, and he's also proven that. He's down in Florida. He's a head coaching job. They just won their first district tournament down there. He's got a heck of a team doing really well coaching. He's got a kid that I think may be a Major League Baseball player. Oh, yeah, he got a picture. He got a son that's about his size already. That's about 8th grade. And he's pretty dominant. He's pretty dominant on that mound, Travis. He's pretty dominant.
That wouldn't be fun to see out there.
No, he can hum it. And I love keeping. That's the one thing about social media I do like. I like keeping up with these guys' kids.
Right.
Watching
sure.
Watch Trey's kid come up from 8th grade to now and staying in contact with him and hitting him up. But yeah, Spoon's one of those dudes, and Spoon's one of those guys that's part of the Suter family too. He was like a son to my brother.
And that says enough right there, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And that's a special thing. And we know this about the 4-year guys and being able to build those relationships and be able to develop it. And on some level, and again, we are where we are, but you would hate it. You would hate it if those relationships were never built again. And I think that needs to be a selling point. I think if you want to separate yourself, and my wife may get to the point where she faces the same thing the men do, where it's all about money. But right now, their program, recruiting, is based on relationships. Recruiting is based on where parents want to send their kids, who they want to send them to develop them, to take care of them so that they can grow into young women. I still think that 4-year pitch needs to be part of it, and say, look, we're going to be different. We're going to be different than the rest of the world.
I hope we hadn't lost that 4-year deal. I hope we hadn't lost it.
We're gonna build it. Next 4-year guy, another guy that has gone into coaching, of course, Tyler Holloway, and another one of Lindy's sharpshooters. Lindy, there's another guy that shot 40% for his career. Tyler, 5.9 points as a freshman, but right out of the gate, 40 of 97 from deep, 412 there on the percentage, 10.6 points each of the next 2 seasons, 8.5 as a senior. All told, he made 210 threes at a 39.7% clip and a remarkably consistent free throw shooter. He shot between 84.8% and 86.6% every year of his career. All told, he made 85.7%, 1,083 points, and 215 assists for Mr. Tyler Holloway.
Yeah, Tyler was just a solid player ever since he landed here from his freshman year on. And, he was really solid. He had some really big shots. He had a big game. I think even his freshman year in the OVC tournament, he made some plays. And then Tyler, of course, left here and became a Bruin, became a Belmont Bruin for several years. I mean, worked his way up to being a true assistant coach. Probably, I know he's got children now and is married, and he's settled into Nashville. And I'm sure he had that opportunity to take that head coaching job at CPA, which is
right.
They're a really good private school down there. I mean, they're really good, and he's doing a great job for them. And he probably kind of got tired of that coaching game and kind of realized, I got 2 kids, and you got when you got those young ones, really the young ones, that makes it even tougher.
You'd like to see them occasionally, yeah.
Yeah, you'd like to ask Matt McMahon about that.
Yeah, but man, it's tough.
It's tough, but yeah, Tyler, good guy. Now that he's a high school coach, I can invite him back to Murray. No, only kidding. He would come in any opportunity he got. He came in for Hoopalooza. He was always on my golf team because he was a better golfer of the former players. Okay, so I always made sure I had Tyler.
You know that information, don't you?
Yeah, I know. Tyler Holloway is going to be on my scramble in the Hoopalooza every year.
That's where having that insider information.
But some people might think Tyler, but you know me, I'm going to go with a shooter.
Yep.
He was a good, solid player. Tyler Holloway is a great, solid player.
And remember, this is the Suter 60. He's the GM as well as the head coach here. He picks these guys. nobody's going to argue with this next guy when you need rim protection, Lindy, and when you need great personality. That's Tony Easley, another one of these guys that kept getting better throughout his career. He capped it off with a great season. His senior year, he went for 10 a game, scoring nearly 6 rebounds, shot 65%, and a single season 95 blocks. That's number one single season. He's number 2 career behind Cuthbert Victor. And Tony, a guy who just had a great way with the fan base. People loved him all told. 921 points, 610 rebounds for the man from Auburn, Alabama.
And probably our best recruiter. Every time we had a player in, you know who was going to host.
He was the host, yep.
Easily, Mr. Personality, Mr. Great Guy, another guy that's doing well, living down in Chattanooga. Came back to Murray recently, stays in contact. Tony Easley was one of those dudes that's just always in that good mood. You never catch Tony Easley in a bad mood. He always had that smile on his face. And you know me also. I like shooters, but what else do I like? I like rim protectors.
Yep. And he offered it in a big way.
Guys that could swat it away. Tyler Holloway was my shooter, and Tony Easley was my rim protector. And, I think both of them are well deserving of being mentioned in that decade.
Well, and Lindy, before we get to our last 2 guys, and because they are both team-oriented guys, winning guys, and we're about the balance. But I think when we look at the Suitor 60, and you consider the all-time greats in Murray State history, you have the greatest of the greats, okay? The top 10, 15 that are just you just look at them and you go, my goodness, these guys were incredible, okay? They passed the eye test. They passed the big moment wow test. They picked the big single season test. They picked the overtime consistency test. They passed it all. But it's easy to put other guys on here who were just as you described, the best of Justin Burdine. There was that best. There was that level of brilliance. And then there are these guys that I like I look at Chris Shoemate's career. Again, 1,207 points, 389 rebounds, 252 assists. If Cuffy is your player of the decade, it's because it's nearly 1,500 points, over 900 rebounds, over 200 assists, 160 blocks, 167 steals. Spoon with nearly 700 rebounds, over 1,000 points, 237 assists. Again, the accumulation of Tony's career. A star never, but a star in his role always. You can't use 921 points, 610 rebounds, and 158 blocks. Of course you can. Every winning roster can't have 7 stars, right?
Right. I'll take Tony Easley all day. I'll take Tony Easley's all day long. The ultimate team player. Sit on the bench sometimes when he should have been in the lineup. And
right.
Of course, you know me, I've always got one player that needs to be on the bench and one that needs to be playing. I can't never go through a year where I'm not replacing one starter. I'm sorry, Travis.
Right.
I tried this year.
You do have your opinions, don't you?
I have my opinion on that. But yeah, Tony came in from got the great visit with him and my brother's funeral a couple of years ago. And Tony just super dude, great player. Like I said, great ambassador, racer for life.
So here's another guy whose name is going to live in racers' hearts forever because of one shot. But across his career, Denaro Thomas, another one of these guys who did so many things to contribute to winning, including work on the defensive end, but came in 06-07, out in 09 and 10, 1,277 points, 508 rebounds, 195 assists, 174 steals. In his senior year, his highs of 90 assists and 60 steals. And, of course, one huge moment in racer history. But Denaro was another guy that got a lot done that contributed to winning basketball games and winning championships.
Yeah, on a very good team, too. On a really good team, he was able to do that. He hit that shot like we'll always remember that shot. That shot I'll never forget. In fact, I think I've got it right there.
How about that being 16 years ago?
There, one shining moment. That's the shot right there. And Denaro, another dude, talking about being a program guy, still a Murray State guy, lives in Iceland, maybe. I think so. I'm like, can't get Greenland and Iceland. I mean, I think it's Iceland. I don't think it's Greenland.
Greenland's the one we're taking.
That's what we're going to take, yeah. Uh, yeah, he's still playing. The dude is still playing, Travis. He's still playing. Got a couple of kids doing real well. But I'll never forget the first day they walked in. I got these recruits, and De Niro walks on the floor, and I'm looking at him, and I'm going, "Who's that 35-year-old out of shape guy?" My gosh! But anyway, they got De Niro going, got him in shape, and he ended up having a great career. Got a lot of wins beside his name, a lot of W's beside his name.
A lot of wins.
I count
And,
that.
and a guy that was able, it's so important that you be able to fit. And he was a great fit guy with his club because he actually averaged more points as sophomore and as junior. But one of those, whatever the club needed. And that team, that 09 and that 10 team, they were really that. And one of their leaders, Isaac Miles, rounding out our roster. Isaac, in his 3 years after coming over to the Racers, over the course of it, 1,022 points in his 3 seasons, but was a great facilitator and creator. He had assist totals of 119, 132, and 123, and 374 assists all told. 114 steals in his career. And Isaac, a neat guy from a shooting standpoint, Lindy. When he arrived at Murray, he shot just 27.3% from 3. By the time he left that last year in 10 and 11, making 39% from deep, the kind of shooting that you love in a point guard or anywhere else.
Isaac Miles is a Hall of Famer. I mean, he's on that decade. He's a Hall of Fame guy. And I'll just tell you, he is. He's a lot of the reason why all that success happened, Travis Turner. He might be the quiet guy that nobody remembers and may not be the flashy guy that put up the points, but he's the guy that saved this program. Because when Mick Cronin left, Trey Pearson was gone. We lost him, remember?
Right.
We lost him. We lost him. I mean, we were empty. We had
Cupboard
nothing.
was empty. It was.
And we didn't have Portal to go out and just replace them. We were lucky that Birmingham Southern, I think, did away with a program or something.
Right.
Where they got Dwayne Paul and Ed Horton, if you remember that year. Billy King did a great job with them. But yeah, he's just, he was a squirrel, as Prone would say. You didn't know where Isaac was. I think Nico's got a couple of good stories because, believe it or not, Nico was going to school here when that group was playing.
Right.
That's kind of bizarre too. But yeah, Miles is tough. Me and Promis talked about it many a times that how Isaac Miles was the guy. He came in from Creighton. He set out that year, and then he was the point guard, and he was the guy in control, and was just I think just a fantastic player.
Well, it was just starting to be something for you back in those days, but he would have been #winner, correct?
Oh, no doubt about it. No doubt about it. He got a lot of wins beside his name. Another guy that I probably should have mentioned was B.J. Jenkins. His guy, I don't know why he escaped me, but he deserves to be mentioned. I'm sure we don't have any stats on him, but B.J. Jenkins was a tough player too. Played a big role on that team. In fact, that whole group right there almost belongs in the top.
Well, and Lindy, we'll be more than happy to include BJ in our work through the teens because one of the things that we've talked about, and we have lots of these guys that have been crossover guys, but I told Lindy, we called it the Suitor 60 to celebrate your 60 seasons as a fan. But if we're going to err on the side of recognizing too many or too few, we're going to recognize too many. I mean, because that's what this is about, because reasonable minds can disagree who would be in your top 10, top 20, top 60, top 100, whatever. But the point of this was, and Lindy, you'll appreciate this, and you may have heard from him yourself, but I got a very nice message from our friend Sawyer Lawson recently, just talking about how much he had enjoyed having you take him down memory lane, talking about these guys. Of course, as I reminded Sawyer, it kills me to think about how old he is now, that he's a fully grown family man and professional. He should still be 15 years old in my mind, but he has grown up as a lifelong Racer fan. But obviously there are some of these guys he could never see. And then when we start to get to the guys that were important to him, everybody enjoys hearing about what they remember and where their feelings and emotions are. So I think that's been the important thing. So to mention any of these guys that had, impact on you and impact on winning, they all deserve that. We're glad to shine that light everywhere we can.
Yeah, let's think about that for a minute. Tony Easley, B.J. Jenkins, Isaac Miles, Daryl Thomas, Isaiah Cannon as a freshman. Isaiah comes in, he's having to play against BJ and Isaac Miles every day, practice. How valuable was that? And Isaiah accepted that 6-man position, made all conference. But, that goes to show you how good BJ and Miles were.
Right.
Because, what three, man, that's a nice backcourt right there. 3 of them.
Well, and I would be interested to know Isaiah's perspective on it, and he might not feel this way, but I think there's something important.
Everybody we should have on here sometimes. Isaiah,
it's important, Lindy, sometimes to not have things handed to you, to have to wait, to have to learn patience, to have to learn to fit in. Because one of the things that was signature in our radio shows back then was Lindy was adamant. I mean, adamant about the fact that Isaiah Cannon was a pro.
Oh yeah.
And he came in, he watched them play pickup that summer before the season. He said, "Hey, listen, this kid," he said, "I'm telling you right now." And that was also a time where you kind of had to hold your tongue a little bit in terms of how many minutes, you thought. Obviously, Isaac and BJ were good enough that you understood, but you knew this kid was special.
Yeah, Prom was an assistant then. You can ask him. I was the only person I told. It wasn't in the Racer Insider. I tried to be nice on the radio, but boy, when I got home, Prom's phone would ring.
Well, and Steve recently shared a story with me about his role having to make sure that everybody in the Cannon family understood how much they loved Isaiah.
Oh yeah. Oh yes. Oh yes. No doubt about that. No doubt about that.
But that's, that is signature. I think, one of the things special when you think about, and we'll talk about it with Ja in on our reveal of the teens, is that Isaiah's ability to assimilate and be part of winning at first, and Ja's ability to, just not explode yet when you had Jonathan and Terrell on that team his freshman year, where, as we mentioned, he had, he averaged nearly 13 points a game, but in a year it's nearly 25, and he was just incandescent that next year. And we knew it was coming, but patient to be a part of the group. And I think there's no wonder that those teams all had championship DNA when all was said and done.
One more player, and I'm going to leave it out. It's another afterthought, because we wouldn't have made it to Dayton to play North Carolina without him. We wouldn't have won the OVC tournament without him. He was the MVP of the OVC tournament. And he was one of the first really guys in the modern era that was really a big dude that we had, and that was Pearson Griffin. Yep. I don't know if people remember Pearson Griffin. About 6'10", big dude, could play ball. He could play ball. He redshirted. T recruited him. Cronin came in, redshirted him, and then he played 2 years for Cronin and had an outstanding career. Like I said, MVP of the OVC tournament.
Yeah, and Pearson was a guy. Of course, he's well up there, and some of the big man records, field goal percentage and blocks and things of that nature. But he was one of those guys when he was playing well, the impact and the dominance that he, you talked about guys who could get on that heater, and he was a guy who could really be overwhelming at his best.
Yeah, and I'll never forget, because I was going, "What are you doing?" But I'll never forget Cronin benching him. And the reason he benched him, because he wanted Pearson to know that we can't win without him.
Yep.
He benched him to where he could sit there and watch the team play and see that we got to have you.
Yep.
We got to have you.
And in the league at that time, players like him were such a difference maker.
That's the first time when we go into the North Carolina game and you looked out there on the court, because a lot of the NCAA games in the early years, especially, you go out there and it's just be a big differential in size.
Just overwhelmed, yes.
Be just like, whoa. But when Pearson Griffin walked, you had a man. You had a man inside there, Helensborough and them. I mean, he had to deal with him. And but he's another one of those dudes that, that decade, after going back and talking about all of them, kind of an underrated decade.
Well, it would be. It would be because
NCAA tournament games, wins. I mean, I think, and then we had this great, wow, you kind of think about it, they're not really named players. They're not guys that you just automatically rip off. But boy, you start putting them together as a five, they'd be pretty tough if you had Isaac Miles at the point guard, Cuthbert Victor, and James Singleton.
absolutely.
I mean, that's a tough team right there.
Well, and Lindy, I think when you think back to those years, of course, the 60s, because of the style of play and the excellence of some of the players, we've talked about Jennings and Cunningham, of course, between their size and the style of play, the rebounding numbers, they just speak for themselves, right? And you had other guys that were really talented like Stu Johnson. And I mean, those guys in the 60s, the best players were just putting up some incredible numbers. We've talked about Les being an all-time superstar, Les Taylor there to start the 70s, Jeff Martin and Don Mann in the 80s, Popeye Jones, and starting the 90s, then Marcus and Vincent, and so then DT. You had so many of these really brilliant all OVC and really player of the year type players for so long. And then with mixed teams and Billy's teams, they both tended to have more ensemble balanced cast than quote unquote superstars. I mean, it's interesting when you think about Cuthbert. He's our player of the decade probably, and his greatest strength was offensive rebounding. Yes. That's unique. It's critical to winning, but it's unique. And then a lot of our guys that were great shooters, they were more specialists in terms of their offensive role. They fit where they needed to fit. And I guess the other guy, probably if anybody surpasses Cuthbert for the decade, it's 3 or 4 years of James Singleton would have possibly done that.
Yeah, possibly James could have possibly done that.
But yes, a lot of good players, a lot of winning. It's no surprise that those things go hand in hand, is it?
That's right. We always talk about that too.
That works well. Well, and Lindy, as we wrap up, we've powered past 90 minutes here again. We'll get ourselves out of here. But to kind of put a bow on this and to take a look at the current racers as they get ready to finish the regular season and head to the postseason tournament. One of the things that, and I think it takes time to assess this, and the non-conference is not enough time. We know we certainly understand that now looking back. We've talked about how talented this Murray State men's roster is. I don't think there's any question about that. There's nothing that I have seen that makes me question that assessment. But whether or not that talent fits together and all of the pieces are willing to go from being stars to starring in their role and contributing to all of the things that lead to winning, making the right help rotation if that's necessary at the right time, making the right box out, grabbing the loose ball, making the extra pass, making the big shot when it has to be made. The group has to be able to do that as a collective together, especially in the absence of a Ja Morant or an Isaiah Cannon. Exactly. The group needs the group. Roman, does he have some star qualities? I think he does. Is he that guy now? He's not. Is Fred utterly dominant at times? He is. Is that how they use him and how he plays all the time? It is not. Do we have some guys who can really make shots? We do. Are they like these guys making 42 and 44% of their threes all the time? They are not. Can that happen for 3 days in St. Louis? It can, but it has to. And I would think a lot of that needs to show up on Sunday against the Bradley Braves.
Oh, no question. That's going to be that's a tough game. That's another game that's on national television, right? ESPN too.
Yep.
Oh my gosh, that hadn't been good to us this year. So we need to break that streak. But that's going to be
to change it.
That game's probably going to have a little seeding, isn't it? I mean,
well, if Murray wins it, they're the two.
Two.
Yeah. Okay. If Murray wins it, there to me, I do not see
where do you think you got to finish to dodge Valpo in that first round game?
Well, Lindy, I tell you what, I'm not evading here, but I'm simply going to say I think I don't think the matchups matter at all.
Okay.
I think it's the patient on our table.
Okay. I got you.
I think it's the Murray State Racers. I think there is reason to fear everybody.
Yeah.
And I mean everybody, brother. I mean, you just gave up the other day to Evansville. You just gave up 12 of 29 3-point shooting to Evansville. You just played a 2-point game with Indiana State a couple of weeks ago. I think you can be afraid of everybody, but afraid of no one in the way that you're afraid of yourself.
Right.
We got to pass the look in the mirror test on Sunday at Bradley. The second half demons have to be put to bed. Something from a toughness, from a leadership, from a stand up and answer right now position has to change. I think the basketball we saw from the Murray State Racers in the first 22 minutes inside the CFSB Center against Belmont wins the tournament. But it's going to have to happen for 120 minutes that week.
Yeah.
If not, whoever you meet in the quarterfinals will beat you. You'll never see the semifinals, regardless of the seed, regardless of the matchup. That has to change. It's 40 minutes of toughness. It's 40 minutes of passion. It's 40 minutes attention to detail, or pack them up and head to the house. I think that's just where they are. If you were better, consistently better, that'd be one thing. If these other teams were some sort of matchup problem, that would be one thing. But I think it's us. Is there somebody that you would rather not see?
To me?
Yeah.
I don't want Valpo.
Yeah.
I just don't want to play them on Friday.
They've done a
phenomenal job. All the rest of them are capable. Don't get me wrong. You're right.
Yeah.
If I had to pick one, we beat them twice. Both of them were close games. I got the eyeball on them. They're talented, and they got a good coach. They're a scary team. They're one of those teams that you better watch in this tournament.
Well, and Lindy, you have to imagine in terms of facilities and money and everything else, nobody's done better with what he's got.
No question about it. No question about it. I agree totally with that.
That's Casey Alexander certainly would be a very good pick for Coach of the Year. I would be on that bandwagon, but Valpo is the place my vote would go, maybe first, but certainly next. Yeah,
I agree.
Well, you and I will have a chance to get back at it when the bracket is set. We'll be able to evaluate it. And then, as I tell people all the time when they want future predictions, I say, I'm going to read the book. I'm going to go to the last page. And I'm going to find out. I'm going to find out what that tournament's going to be. We'll break it all down there. And listen, you and I are going to have to consider something on this teens team. We may have to do a short half-hour show projecting the tournament and then just let the 2000 teens, let them eat. Because when we get to that bunch, we may be an hour and a half in with that team alone.
I think that's a good idea, Travis. Good idea. In fact, that's what we will do. That's what we'll do.
Hey, and we won't charge people any extra for it. That'll be for free.
Yeah.
Just for our regulars that pass through the turnstiles. All right, my friend. Awesome show today. Last word, as always, goes to you.
Go Racers.